The three homages. Buddham saranam gacchami.
Buddham saranam gacchami.
Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Good morning and welcome. It's just wonderful to see you all here this morning. We are very happy to be able to hold this space together so that we can practice more peace and gratitude and calm in a Sangha environment. So, and thank you for tuning in at home. We do appreciate everyone being together in whatever way they can. So we will begin our service today by chanting our verses of true faith, also known as the Shoshinge, and it's in the seat back pocket in front of you or behind you. So this was written by our lineage founder, Shinran Shonin, the monk at the very top in the large picture, over 850 years ago. And this is traditional in our lineage. It's in Japanese, but you can read the Romaji, the English letters, and it's chanted in vertical columns from right to left. And if you just want to listen, if you're new, that's totally fine too. If you want to give it a shot, please try it. If you want to read the English at the bottom, you can do that too. So there's lots of options, but the main point is that it's just good Sangha energy being cultivated when we all chant together. So it's a practice in our tradition, and it compresses Shinran Shonin's experiences into one pleasantly long poem. And in it, we realize that the principles that guide our lives, Shinran wanted us to know that it's more than a simple journey from cradle to grave. We are part of a long, unbroken thread of life that extends deep, deep into the past, and we are responsible for extending that thread into the future. As we chant the Shoshinge, you may come up and offer incense. And incense is an offering in gratitude to the infinite wisdom and compassion of the universe, to Amida Buddha, to a dear teacher, whatever you feel like that gratitude is going forward to honor is good. So everyone is encouraged to come up and do that, even if you're new. And then we have two other altars. We have the Kanon altar, the altar of compassion, where you can light a candle to a dear one who has passed or somebody who needs a little more compassion sent towards them. And then we have the Medicine Buddha altar here, a little more healing energy focused towards a loved one or for yourself. It's okay. So please offer. All of these offerings go out in gratitude for more healing and more compassion, which we definitely need. So thank you so much. Shoshinge. Kimyo muryo junyorai.
Namu Fukashihiko Hozo Gosai Niji Zai Seiji Zai Obusho Token Shobu Jodo-in Kokudo Ninden Shizen Maku Konryu Mujo Shushogan Choho Keiwu Daiguze Kokoshi Yuishi Shoju Jusei Myosho Monjipo Uho Muryo Muhenko Muge Mutaiko Enno Shoujo Kangi Chieko Fudan Nanshi Mushoko Chonichi Gakko Shojin-sei Isai Gunjo Mukosho Hongan Myogo Shoujo-go Shishin Shingyo Ganni-in Joto Gakusho Dai Neihan Hishi Metno Ganjoju Nyorai Shoi Koshusei Yuisei Mida Hongan Kai Gojoku Akuji Gunjo Kai Oshin Nyorai Ryojitgon Noho Ichinen Kiai Shin Fudan Bon no Tokuneihan Onsho Gyaku Hosai Einyu Nyoshu Shinyu Kai Ichimi Seishu Shinko Joshogo Ino Suiha Mumyo-an Tonnai Shinzo Shi-un-mu Jofu Shinji Shinjin Ten Inyo Niko Fu-un-mu Unmu Shige Myomu-an Gyakushin Kenkyo Daikyo Ki Sokuo Chose Go Akushu Isai Zen Makubon Bunin Monshin Yorai Guzegan Butengong Hodai Shogeisha Zeini Myo Fundarike Midabu Hongannen Bu Jaken Kyoma Nakushujo Shingyo Juji Jinni Nanchu Shina Mukashi Indo Saiten Shironge Shukaji Chiki Shikoso Kendai Shoko Se Shoi Myonyo Rai Honze Oki Shaka Nyorai Ryoga Sen 異種五明南天竺龍樹大寺主等世質の財派有無権先世大乗無情法召喚議事小安楽賢治南行六六信行異行指導楽億年弥陀部本願次年即時入上唯の上昇如来語王法大悲偶税音天神菩薩増論世奇妙無下公如来永寿たら謙信寺高専王朝大誓願高有本願力栄光異道群上小維新非入空独大崩壊一脈入大永寿宗特使蓮華造世界即昇進用法昇進有本の人間人図入生自用自王芸本自論乱両天使上皇乱書菩薩来三蔵ルシ十条教本書専業気楽法天神菩薩論中芸報道因果見世願王言栄光有他力少女死因唯信心惑前本部新人法承知承知即内藩非死無量光明道小雨修上回復系同社継承道南書唯名浄土活入万全自力変言中円満特語感染症三不三心軽音言増魔法明道非因異生増悪地偶税思案了解称名化先道六名無償意法愛上三上逆悪公明明語見因縁介入本願大智慧幼者小樹今後心狂気一年総合用意大と逆三人即小法小四上楽見信公開一大教偏気安養可二祭先祖出身反先人法華二道小弁流極重悪人唯小部我薬剤非正集中煩悩証言随不見大非無見上昇が本次元空妙仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書後編集戦弱本願具悪性現来生じ臨伝芸慶地義上位小子即入弱上無意楽一心寺に納入不教大自主使徒上細無変極辱悪同族自主愚道心唯過信し高祖世ナムアミダブナムアミダ むあみだあぶなむあみだぶなむあみだぶな
みだじょぶのこの方は今に自己をへたまえりほしんのこうりえぬきわもなあくせのもみょうを照らすなりナムアミダムナムアミダブナムアミダブナアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムゲダの降臨きはもなしこうそくかむるものはみいなうむを離ると述べたもおうようどうかくに奇妙せよえこがんにしくどく平等聖祭どうも大神お嬢はあんらほナマンダブナマ
Now we would like to invite the children to go to Dharma School with Reverend Shelley. We will sing Let the Buddha Walk With You as they go. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you.
The questions of the Naga King Sagara. I bow to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Thus I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying at the palace of the Naga king Sagara, together with a great assembly of 1,200 students, as well as many Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas. Sitting by the ocean in the palace courtyard of the Naga king, Sagara asked, "What is the greatest expression of the vast Dharma of the Buddha?" The Buddha responded to the Naga king Sagara, "Lord of the Nagas, when you speak of these 4 axioms of the Dharma, in so speaking, you can express all 84,000 aspects of the Dharma. What are the 4 marks? They are as follows. To fully engage in the understanding the inexhaustible wisdom of the enlightened Mahasattvas, that all compounded phenomena are impermanent, that all contaminated phenomena are suffering, that all phenomena are without self, and to fully understand and engage in the inexhaustible truth that nirvana is peace. Dear King, if one utters these 4 axioms of the Dharma, in saying them you are expressing all 84,000 articles of the Dharma. Consider the following analogy. The earth is the foundation of all things established on the ground, such as all villages, cities, regions, and kingdoms. It is the basis for all growing things, grass, herbs, and farms, and all seeds, sprouts, and harvests. It is where all sowing, plowing, and cultivation takes place. In the same way, the Dharma of the 4 marks is the basis for everything on the path, from learning to the achieving the fruition of no more learning, the basis of the awakening of the hearers and the solitary Buddhas, the basis of everything from all Buddha and Bodhisattva deeds, all the way up to all inconceivable Buddha qualities. When the Buddha had spoken in this way, the students and Bodhisattvas rejoiced and greatly praised the teachings of the Buddha. We will now have a few minutes of meditation accompanied by music.
I tried out some new incense today in the burner there, and turns out I'm a little bit sensitive to it, so it makes me cough, which I think I'm going to have to stick with the old sandalwood for now. It smelled pleasant, but still sensitive. Good morning again. You're always welcome here at Reno Buddhist Center. We're happy to see you here at the temple. We applaud the great courage that new folks have to summon to come and visit us. So you're encouraged to participate and ask questions. Newcomer Circle after the service is the perfect place for that as well. And our members, dear friends, fellow travelers on the Dharma path, you sustain us in so many ways, so thank you for that. Reverend Shelley and I had a surprisingly full week this week, full of Buddhism presentations. We do that from time to time, speaking to old folks' homes or schools or whoever calls and says, could you send someone to talk about Buddhism? So we have an introductory kind of description and then question time. This week we did 8 presentations. Seems like a lot, even just scheduling them all and everything. 7 presentations at North Valley High School to history classes, and then 2 at UNR to the World Religions class. So a lot of driving around and finding parking places and finding the room, and there's just all this logistics involved in doing that. It was a lot. It was kind of an immersion experience in student world. So I've not been in student world for a while. I'm a kind of student here, but that's different. And the questions were mostly of the friendly kind. Buddhism is cool, apparently, to kids, and so it's a little bit counter to mom and dad world, so that makes sense. It's interesting to students. And after all these questions, I noticed that it seems that the students, and probably people in general, associate Buddhism with peace and meditation and nonviolence. Many people seem to think that a robe like this and a peaceful smile are pretty much all it takes to be a Buddhist. So, as a serious Buddhist myself, I confess, I do take some pride in that reputation, particularly the nonviolent part. It's pretty rare in kind of an age of mechanized destruction, especially there's just so many strong violent ideas that people are putting forward. So far Buddhists have not disgraced ourselves too badly in that regard, so that's good. Violence has never played a part in the propagation of Buddhism. So that's a little tiny pat on the back, and it's nice to hear that feedback in those groups. But as a trained Buddhist, I also feel a little discontented with Buddhism just being associated with nothing beyond vegetarianism, nonviolence, and meditation. Prince Siddhartha sacrificed all the comfort and luxury of palace life, culminating numberless lifetimes of learning and experience, seeking to discover an end to human suffering. That seems like more than just passivity and a high-fiber diet. So, so there are lots of these questions that brought me to that conclusion. One of those questions still keeps ringing in my ear. We walk the dogs or something in the neighborhood, and I'm still kind of thinking about it. That was one student at North Valley High and asked, what is a Buddhist? And probably the reason it sticks with me is because my answer felt inadequate. I did answer, and I wanted to present a clear and rigorous definition, something that would hold up to scrutiny and then bring the scrutinizer to greater insight. But instead, I said, a Buddhist is a person who follows the Buddha. Next question. And I just, because it seemed complicated and I didn't know. Now, I demand a mulligan. Some of you aren't golfers, a do-over for that one. It just, I was not happy with how that worked out. It's like I answered, what is a golfer, with someone who golfs? No, you cannot use the word in the definition. Everybody knows that. I know that. I taught my kids that. I don't know why I managed to forget it. It was kind of back in high school is really what happened to me. And we were on the stage, and there's like 100 students and 2 people sitting on the stage. And I don't know what happened. We have to describe clearly with other ideas to answer a what is question. So here is my do-over. My better answer is, someone is a Buddhist if they accept or see or recognize 4 marks of existence in samsara. The 4 marks the Buddha shared with the Naga king, Sagara, that we just heard in the sutra. Thank you for showing you. Everything changes. All things we call things are impermanent. That's another way to say that. Life is a bumpy road. All emotions contain some pain, is one way people formulate that. Everything is interdependent. Things have no inherent self-existence. That's important. And life is fundamentally good. Nirvana is beyond all conception. Yeah. That is the answer. We call these the 4 marks. And in the old days, a mark meant something like a hallmark. You've heard that. It kind of confirms that the thing is authentic. Like the wax seal on the letter from the king, it was impressed with the king's mark. That kind of mark. Seeing these 4 makes you a Buddhist, even in a world without a Buddha. See, that was my goal. I wanted to answer in a way that applied even in the absence of a Buddha, because Buddhism is not about the Buddha, just like relativity is not about Einstein. It's that kind of thing. My understanding is that these 4 marks are meant to be understood for real, as the students would say. Not as a metaphor, a mystical allusion to something else. They are meant to be taken seriously. The marks are not enforced edicts or given commandments. They are wise observations. With a little contemplation, we see that there is nothing moralistic or controlling in the Buddha's words. It's not social engineering, like Google, or God trying to make bad people good somehow if they just follow our rules. There is no mention of good or bad in the 4 marks. It is just the way things are. They are universal truths based on insight and wisdom. Insight and wisdom is kind of our thing in Buddhism. These marks hold the entire Dharma storehouse of wisdom in them. They are insights into the fundamental principles of existence, truths we live by, or we try to live by, depends on the day. So the 4 marks: life is impermanent, life is a bumpy road, life is interdependent, and life is fundamentally good. What do we mean by life is impermanent? Nothing stays the same. Even from one moment to the next, everything changes. This is true of atoms and of galaxies. Our intuitions, our expectation is that things are stable, but when in fact they are not. Even everything we make changes like this. It changes quite quickly. So impermanence is a fact of life. We experience impermanence most on a deep level in our person. We see changes in our relationships and even in our bodies. So, do we feel sad and helpless because everything is impermanent? No, it's great. Imagine a world without changefulness. It would be full of all the garbage ever made. It would just sit there, piling up. Children would never grow up. That would not be good. It would be a horrible world if it wasn't for changefulness. What do we mean by life is a bumpy road? We all experience disappointments, fear, and even sadness. Some of us hit more of those bumps than others, and we can't avoid them. These bumps are a natural part of human existence. Sometimes we forget this truth, and we don't want to accept it. We expect the road in our life to be smooth. Buddhism describes these bumps, dukkha is the old word for it, 8 aspects, 8 of them. Birth, aging, illness, death, being separated from dear ones, having to associate with unpleasant people, not getting what we want, and being attached to components that we call I or self. We mustn't turn away from the bumps in the road. Avoidance often makes them more so. The difficulties in our lives are not there to punish us for being bad or because we're failures. The bumps are stepping stones toward insight and wisdom. They move us toward the ultimate Buddhist goal, which is to become a Buddha or be enlightened. Trials on a path of spiritual growth. How about the principle that life is interdependent? We are a product of many influences that create who we are and how we feel. Just as waves are part of the ocean, we are part of the rest of the universe, not separable. You can't just make a wave by itself. It has to be in an ocean. Otherwise, it's some water or a puddle, or I don't know, there's another word for a wave separated from the ocean. All systems of nature are linked together this way. Each system needs all the others to be, to exist, to live. Everything is empty of separateness. We're not special. Human beings in particular are not special, powerful stewards of the Garden of Eden, as some people say. We are other animals in the garden, and there's lots of them. We're just like the rest, elements of the whole. We are interlinked to every other aspect of the universe and every part of this world. Even what we might call our individual self is like this. If we look very closely in mindfulness, it is not ours at all. You are part of everything, and everything is part of you. We are all constantly recreating the universe by our constant interdependent co-arising together. The fourth insight, the fourth mark, life is fundamentally good. Sometimes people quibble with this. But fundamentally good is important to see. If we have a just right view of the world, that's the first fold of the Eightfold Path. Our Dharma wheel has 8 spokes on it. Those are the folds of the Eightfold Path. The first one the Buddha talked about was just right view. And despite the bumps, we find joy and meaning in life. Sometimes life seems hard or bleak. We can make things brighter by remembering the Buddha's teaching. With our minds we make the world, he said. Verse 1 of the Dhammapada. He is saying that life is what we choose to make it. The more we foster bodhisattva awareness, the more we cultivate compassion, the more we experience our lives as fundamentally good. You might have noticed that there are 4 marks of existence, and then there's 4 noble truths. There's some connection there. Don't want to cloud things up. They seem quite different, the 4 marks and the 4 noble truths. The 4 marks of existence are included in the 4 noble truths. What are the 4 noble truths? Life is inherently joyful, but we don't experience it that way. We don't because the 3 selfish poison of greed, anger, and ignorance distort the way we experience life. If we let go of those poisonous habits, joy flows in. That's the 3rd noble truth. And the 4th noble truth is the eightfold path that leads to a joyful life. The marks are there, woven in. In the first truth, we see the 4th mark, life is good, and the 2nd mark, bumps in the road. In the 2nd truth, we see the 3rd mark, interdependence. Selfishness brings suffering, and separateness brings selfishness or separateness. Sometimes I think of those 2 as the same. They bring suffering. The 4 marks we heard in the sutra are so important that they are the first fold of the Eightfold Path. The Buddha put them in the front. Just right understanding of those truths is very important. We can talk about that another time, because the way Buddhism goes, there's all these lists, and I can go through the Eightfold Path, and then I get to the 4th step on the Eightfold Path, and that has a list of 5. So I will let that be. It was good to make all these presentations this week, just to kind of get out and see folks in the environment, educational world. There were so many questions, and we had the opportunity to plant many, many seeds of the Dharma, and those will bear fruit someday in some way. We can't really know how. And these 4 marks, that life is impermanent, life is a bumpy road, life is interdependent, and life is fundamentally good. These are 4 insights that really define a Buddhist. We can speak different languages and wear different robes. We can seem to disagree about the easiest path to insight and freedom. But all Buddhists think this way, deep down. That is what I wanted to say to that student who innocently asked, "What is a Buddhist?" Now maybe we can reflect for a moment and ask the last question that we sort of always need to ask about such things. What good is that? So we recognize that everything in the universe is impermanent. What good is that? The Buddha was very practical. He had a single goal in mind when he left that palace, and he went through all those lifetimes: the freedom of all beings. What good is seeing impermanence? With this wisdom that changes in ourselves and the world, they'll hurt less. They will not harm us or debilitate us. We can kind of roll with those changes. Everything changes is kind of a platitude, right? But it is important because of how much we can see that we reject that truth. That shows our cards. That shows our predisposition to I, me, my, to living in a little bubble. We have to hear this over and over again. Even if we just kind of get a glimmer of how important it is, it's good to hear it over and over again. And life is a bumpy road. That incense, it just kind of got to me. I can get about 12 minutes out of one lick of peppermint. Okay. Life is a bumpy road is useful because if we think life is supposed to be smooth and our life is not, We think there's something wrong with us. There is nothing wrong with you. You're okay, just as you are. The troubles and pain of life are normal. They help us grow. We can weather them as hard as it seems. We are stronger for enduring and understanding these challenges. Life is interdependent. Don't get me started on how wonderfully useful life is interdependent is. If we have that insight, all kinds of things become soluble, understandable. One way to see how important this truth is to flip it around. So imagine if we tried to value separateness above everything, separateness from everything. Then we can kind of see how diluted it is, because clearly absolutely nothing would be possible. And if we were completely separate, then we couldn't even exist, because we'd have to have a mother and a father, and separateness would mean they were separate. We live in a materialist society, right? And we actually think we're separate. I'm over here, you're over there. Clearly we're separate, right? Oh, it's such a silly, just a tiny surface level understanding. All the preponderance of everything else in the universe says, no, we're not separate. To think our actions are purely our own is, again, silly. We are really elements of just this vast fabric, a vast matrix of being. It's quite wonderful to be a wave in the ocean and then look at the other waves and feel our connection, but also our distinctness. That's wonderful. Lastly, life is fundamentally good. Of all the marks, it is the utmost. In spite of our delusion and wrong perceptions, knowing life is good will guide us to Dharma practice in a way nothing else can. It is the most pervasive and effective of the marks. All the bumps in the road of life are smoothed and eased in some measure with this profound knowledge that life is fundamentally good. We can close by sharing the metta prayer together. If you could make Gasho, it's good to do that. Say after me, may you be happy. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. May you receive boundless compassion. May peace and harmony fill your heart. May peace and harmony fill your heart. Namo. Namo. At this point, we usually sing our Reno Buddhist Center theme song. So we will call upon Masako's Echo to play it on the piano for us. Oh, if you'd stand, it's on page 49 of the service book. Could we start again and louder? That would probably help. Not starting again, that's the same beginning. I don't know if it's long enough though. 5, 6, 7, 8. Away, away with me, where the grass grows wild and the winds blow free. Away, away, come away with me, and I'll build you a home in the meadow. Come, come, little for the whole. Stop the piano. Away, away, come away with me. Oh no. Masako, forget it. Okay, we're just going to sing it. and we will start with Away and go on from there. It's to the tune of Greensleeves, so everybody knows the tune once we get there. Okay. Away, away, come away with me, where the grass grows wild and the winds blow free. Away, away, come away with me, and I'll build you a home in the meadow. Come, come, there's a wondrous land for the hopeful heart and the willing hand. Come, come, there's a wondrous land where I'll build you a home in the meadow. The stars, oh how bright and far, on a world of pure and eternal law. The stars, oh how bright they'll shine, on that home we will build in the meadow. Come, come, there's a wondrous land for the hopeful heart and the willing hand. Come, come, there's a wondrous land where I'll build you a home in the meadow. As I learned when I was teaching at San Jose State University, I had this one student, and in those days, we used, it was a computer design lab that I was teaching in actually, and we used floppy disks. They weren't actually floppy anymore. They were kind of a hard plastic gizmo. The generation before had the really floppy ones. And because it was a new technology, the lab was cutting edge in Silicon Valley and everything, we had to sell the disks to the students because otherwise they couldn't get them anywhere. You couldn't buy them at Kinko's or Save Mart or anything, not at all. So a student came to me. It was, you'd work on your project and you'd have to save it on your floppy disk and then go away, and then when you came back, you could put the floppy disk in and work on your project, right? So she came, she bought one of the disks from me, and it was $1.25, I think. And she came back a few minutes later, and she bought another floppy disk from me, and I thought, okay, well, there's another one, there you go. And then I talked to another student, and then the girl came back, and she wanted another floppy disk, and I couldn't resist asking her, why do you need 3? You know, what happened? And she said, oh, well, I put them in the thing, and then I couldn't save them, so it wouldn't come out, so I got another one, and I put it in again, and it disappeared again, and so I came back, and I got another one from you, and then I put it in again, and I thought, wait, where are you sticking it? And I went to the machine with her, and sure enough, between this drive and that drive, there was a gap. And it was full of floppy disks. We had to take it apart and everything. So what does this have to do with our terribly failed attempt at singing Home in the Meadow? Anything worth doing is worth doing over. That was the big lesson. So I just violated the don't do 2 sermons rule that we learned in preschool, but that's okay. Thank you very much for bearing with us. Those were the days. I guess going to UNR and everything brought that back in the swirl of, that is, the storm of memory. I would point your attention to announcements that are on the order of service. There's a bunch of them there. I'm not going to tell you all of them. The most important one is that tea and treats will be served downstairs through those doors and circle your way down. There will also be a newcomer circle. George Killeran there, raising his hand, will be at the table for newcomers, so sit with George and then we can have question time there. A bunch of other good stuff going on, and I want to thank you very much for your kind attention.